Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for being here for our regular meeting of August 12th. And for the record, it is 1:05. If you'll call roll, please.
Mayor BARRONE.
Present.
Councilmember Plaza.
Here.
Councilmember Fun.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
County Manager Archuleta, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Everybody would rise, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll remain standing for a brief moment of silence. I know we had a tragic loss where Arturo Suazo was one of the original students appointed by former Mayor Bobby Duran, who was one of the mayor's first youth advisory council. He was served in the community for 2007 and 2008. Just a moment of silence in remembrance of this young gentleman. Thank you. Council, we have approval of the agenda next. There is a couple of items that we'd like to include at the beginning of the agenda. We amend the agenda to include the recognition of the Mystic Dance Team and also Mr. Michael Landgraf, who has served with us for a number of years. With that, Council, Councilman Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the amendment of the agenda under item 7, A and B, which would be the dance team and Mr. Lang.
And moving A, the oath of office
To C.
To C. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Plaza.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Fun.
Yes.
So we go to approval of the minutes for July 8th, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Council, have a motion to approve. We have
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Not, call for the vote.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza.
Yes.
Councilmember Fun.
Yes.
So we've got item B, July 14th, 2014, special meeting minutes. Council, have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, call for the vote.
Councilmember Fun.
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
We go to item C, July 22nd, 2014, regular meeting minutes. Council, have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Further discussion? None, call for the vote.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza.
Yes.
Councilmember Fun.
Yes.
So we'll go on to item 7A, and I would just like to, under this item, we have Mr. Michael Landgraf with us here today, and you know, he served a number of years with us here. He was our youth council, and we'd like to truly recognize his service that he had with us, and we'd like to present a plaque to him. Also, we'd like to present a gift certificate. I don't know where he's heading to school, but it might buy you a few meals, might buy you some gas to put in your vehicle. So we really appreciate you serving with us, and you know, and just reading the plaque with, you know, the leaders who shares experience ensures a bright future and leaves a legacy of success. The mayor and council of the town of Taos would like to commend you on your outstanding excellence, dedication, discipline, and hard work. In your role as youth council member, we wish to thank you for your strong, clear commitment to excellence in government. You are a leader of tomorrow. So thank you, and thank you for being here. We move on to item B. We have the Mystic Dance Team, and I want to yield to our counselor. I appreciate you, if you would.
This one is on.
Yes. I believe it is, Chief.
Yeah, it's on. Well, I'm really excited to be the one to get to introduce this jovial bunch of our future leaders here in Taos. And, you know, we have all the time to hear on the news about negative things that are happening in our community, all over the world. And we have a lot of people here, young people, who are so involved in something so wonderful and so positive. And they've just reached for the stars and actually grabbed them. 2 years ago, this same dance group won the international competition in Florida. And today, I get to say that they also won the nationals this year. So, it takes so much effort for everybody to give of their time and to push these kids in the positive directions that they've gone in. And I want to thank the coaches. First, Maria Lucero Ospino. Could you please stand up? She's in the back. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work. And I want to thank your parents for keeping the kids focused on this project. And I also want to thank all the people who are involved in fundraising, because that's such a big part of making the team successful for competitions and going wherever they need to go. So if there's any of the parents and the people who help with fundraisers, stand up also, please. What it says on these certificates is, the town of Taos would like to commend you on your outstanding excellence and hard work. It is with great pride that we recognize your achievements. You are our leaders of tomorrow, and you truly are. And I just want to encourage you to keep reaching for the stars. Maybe one of these days we'll actually get to have one of the dancers on Dancing with the Stars who comes out of Taos. You never know. Stranger things have happened. But I'm going to go ahead and start announcing it, so come up as I call your name. This certificate is awarded to Enrica Vigil. To Krista Williams. Alexia Winter. Santana Lopez. Angel Lucero. Santana Lucero. Brianna Hutchinson. Marisol Gorman. Brianna Gorman. Sierra Ferguson. Osvaldo Bernal. Anastasia Cordova. Rhiannon Vigil. Amara Mealy. Alexis Tafoya. Randy Trujillo. Brianne Trujillo. Destiny Vigil. Marisa Mariscal. Alejandro Mariscal. Mia Lucero Garcia. Jamie Manchester Jones. Aaron Manchester Jones. Alexis Cruz. Anaí Aviles. Naida Aragon. Leah Abeta. Laura Lee Maestas, who is a coach. Marianne Ferguson, also a coach. María Lucero Espino. Tasha Vieira. Brianna Mondragon. Whitney Vigil. up here for a photo of the whole team together here in the chamber? For all your family, what camera
Sneak in behind.
Stand on the table.
Andrew, give him hell there, Andrew.
Everybody's here? Hey, everybody look at this one,
Hold that smile.
Everybody go. Thank you. Are these
Just give me a second from Your Honor, I know your time is valuable. We'll get right to you right now. So the next thing on the item is our Judge Richard Chavez, and he'll be administering the oath of office to Cadet Chrissie Vigil.
Okay, I met Christina a little while ago, and I asked her if her family was here, and she said, not my immediate family, but my police family is here, so I always ask the family to come up. So, police officers, get up here. Janie.
I'm taking video, unfortunately.
okay.
I'm the family member.
Come on up. Chief?
Chrissie, raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Chrissie,
I, Chrissie,
having been appointed to police cadet
having been appointed to police cadet
in and for the town of Taos,
in and for the town of Taos,
for the governing body of the town of Taos,
for the governing body of the town of Taos,
on Tuesday, August 12, 2014.
on Tuesday, August 14th, 2012.
August 14, 2014.
August 12th, 2014.
In the county of Taos,
In the county of Taos,
state of New Mexico,
state of New Mexico,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of New Mexico,
the Constitution and laws of New Mexico,
the town of Taos Municipal Code,
the town of Taos Municipal Code,
and faithfully and impartially discharge
and faithfully and partially discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Officer, welcome aboard. We'll go ahead on, move on to presentations. A presentation regarding the Old County Courthouse, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the following presentation from Taos County Chamber of Commerce, Taos Entrepreneurial Network, Taos Mainstreet, and Taos Arts and Cultural District regarding the Old County Courthouse. Mr. Bellis.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there are some members of those organizations in the audience that would like to address the council with a proposal.
Okay.
Mayor BARRONE, City Council members, my name is Marco Schmidt. I'm the market manager for the Taos Farmers Market, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Downtown Community Coalition, a new coalition of businesses, arts organizations, and community groups that are concerned about Main Street preservation and development. The groups that have met and contributed to our coalition include the Taos Chamber of Commerce, the Taos Entrepreneurs Network, the Taos Farmers Market, the Green Chamber, the Taos Center for the Arts, the Taos Arts and Culture District, Holy Cross Hospital, and various downtown businesses and interests. Our main focus currently is the county courthouse in consideration of how the old county courthouse can be utilized, managed, refurbished, how operating and rehabilitation costs can be dealt with so the building can continue as a community resource and expand as a centerpiece of the plaza and town at large. We don't want to see the county courthouse locked up again and use of the building as a community and development resource lost to the town. The locks on the mural room have already been changed, and the ACD Mainstreet has received an eviction notice, and there are no further plans or funds at this time to preserve or restore the building. This is where our coalition would like to contribute business and organizational expertise, grassroots support, and responsible economic development. We are currently developing a plan to present to the county that will meet the goals of above. We would like to ask the City Council to consider the role of the town as fiscal agent and to eliminate the county attorney's objections due to the state anti-donation clause. As fiscal agent, the town, in partnership with our coalition, will provide a conduit for grants, legislative appropriations, and financial transparency and accountability to the county and public. Please consider endorsing our agenda and acting as our fiscal agent in a partnership that will benefit the entire Taos downtown community.
All right, we have a Councilor Gonzalez.
Marco, thank you. I do have questions with regards to this, in that, number one, it's not our building. And I know that you're asking us to take fiscal responsibility for it, but even that wouldn't change the anti-donation. I do have issues in that Mr. Archuleta's here, but they haven't, this presentation hasn't been presented to the county commissioners themselves. So this was part of that enactment that I had talked about last week or 2 weeks ago with regards to putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, because without collaboration from the county and getting that building turned over to us or some type of collaboration or effort happening, it's a moot point. So I hate to say that, I think you started in the wrong place. I'm happy that there's this coalition of individuals that want to see the vibrancy of that courthouse stay alive, because I certainly do too. I like the events that had gone in there previously, but I'm one counselor that feels strongly against privatization, number one. But number two, that it remains a public, open space for the general public to continually utilize. So I would recommend, getting the pitch to the county first off, and then coming back to us with regards to their decision. And I don't know, Mr. Archuleta, if you can fill us in a little bit with where the county's gone or where their plans and intentions will go. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, and Manager. Speak into the mic so they can hear me. Obviously, I'm here because I saw it on the agenda and I was a little shocked and surprised. First of all, that it was the agenda, but so was the commission as to why this item would be on the agenda when it's referenced the county courthouse. In the statement that was just read, I do want to clarify for the record that nobody has been given an eviction notice. So that statement is not true. The second statement is that we did change the locks. Part of the problem that was going on at the old county courthouse were that there were no contracts. There were a lot of events going on up there, and the commission had asked specifically, and our legal team had asked specifically, and me as a manager, that we have contracts for every event that's going on up there. We have continued to have those events. In fact, I was listening to the radio on the way down here. There's one's happening on the 16th. That event was planned prior to. We did put a contract in place for that. That contract was not in place. In fact, when we talked to the people about those contracts, we were told that they said the county didn't want contracts and that's why they didn't have them. And that's not true. And that's why we had to lock the doors, change the locks, and manage it differently, because it's a liability to the county to have people up there without contracts in place, without liability insurance and those kind of things. And so the commission is going to be considering on the 19th the possibility of 3 different avenues for the old county courthouse. Again, the old county courthouse belongs to the commission. It belongs to the people of this community, and I think that the commission has continued to take the steps forward to try to make that a vibrant location. Last year, Taos County invested about $100,000 into that facility. We didn't get reimbursed for that. Nobody gave us any money for it. We put that out of our general fund in order to do that. Part of what the commission is currently looking at, or what staff's going to come forward to the commission on, is maybe some type of a management agreement. And if that is going to be the case, then what are the parameters of that management agreement? Are we only going to have cultural events in there? Are we going to have only cultural artists in there? Are we going to open that up to some kind of a museum? Or would we consider some kind of a commercial space for an anchor tenant? Those are all decisions that the commission will be making on the 19th. After that, I think the presentations, proposals can be made. One thing that was very clear at the last commission meeting is that they would like to see the bottom space more of a commercial type event or some kind of a museum, and then the upper space they would still like to see it for economic development. But again, those decisions have not been made, and I stand for questions.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Ortiz, based on estimates, what has the full rehabilitation of that building come out as with regards to installation of elevator for ADA compliance and whatnot? Has the commission explored that?
The commission has explored that. We're actually looking at different alternatives to finance that at this point. The elevator's about $85,000. That's what we're looking at. We could get away cheaper if we did some kind of a ramp in the back end of the building, but that's only half the problem. The other problem is still the plumbing for some kind of ADA restrooms, and also for the general public.
What's the full overall? Are we talking hundreds, thousands, million?
It's probably close to about $250,000 is what we're talking about.
Mr. Mayor, I guess my concern with that is how do we offset it? How do we pay for, if we become the fiscal agent, and that's the one thing that's always on my mind, and you'll see it later today with regards to the farmer's market and the issue with the parking, is how do we stimulate enough funds to make it viable? I mean, because the one thing we don't want to do is dump a bunch of money into it, and then we get left holding the purse bag for it, and God forbid, commission and the council end up at odds again with no real viable plan in place and a gorgeous building with nothing left to be done. Or the other side to that coin is putting tenants in there and risking us having the liability of no ADA compliance, and then we don't have any recourse with a slip and fall or something that happens to an individual. So I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Archuleta, with regards to the liability, because I myself, anytime we host events, anywhere within a publicly owned space, you always have to worry about the liability. So thanks, Mayor.
Councilor Crawford?
I just want to know if there's been, I'd like to know if there's any other presentations that are going to be made, and then I'll ask some questions after.
The only other statement that we'd like to add is the point of us coming today was that we're very interested in and invested in the redevelopment of this area. It's critical to our growth as a community. Very pleased to hear that the county is working on some ideas. Our hope was to actually make a presentation to the county for the meeting on the 19th. Prior to that, we wanted to come before you to discuss the opportunity of partnering together with the business community in moving this forward to put us in a position where we could get grants, where we could work more closely with the state to develop this area, potentially long-term into a very viable business district. So that's our intent today.
Anyone else?
I actually am here as a representative of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the vice chairman. I'm also on the 10 board. I'm a retailer in the historic district. So I'm interested in the old courthouse on many different levels. I feel like we are in a position where we can get tremendous community support and everyone work together on something as important as the old courthouse. So my wish as a retailer, a citizen, on the various boards is that we can cooperate in this and have the courthouse be something that the whole community can enjoy. The meeting this morning where we formed it's so new I don't even remember the name, Downtown Community Coalition, was really very exciting to me because it's people from all different aspects of Taos, the museum associations, the music, the galleries, the shop owners, and then of course 10 and the chamber. Finally, maybe we have an opportunity for all these disparate groups to work together for the common goal of the town. And all of us, we all have something very much in common as we want the best for Taos. I feel like Taos is poised on the edge of really great things. We've got the ski valley, we've got the national monument, possibly the airport. So all these things are lining up for Taos, and I really feel it's a time we all work together as a community for the best of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Here's the, I'll just hand these out. This is kind of the group that met this morning who are interested in working together.
Thank you, sir. I think that, what you're asking for, what you're talking about is a terrific philosophical idea. However, I think for the county's part and for the town's part, we need to have much more of a long-term financial plan as to how this would work. Part of that is going to be having the county commission with their investment and their
research into the needs of the facility. And in the group you're talking about and others, but somebody's gonna have to come up with a financial plan based upon this information to make a determination as to what is financially viable. And I've heard all kinds of different things about what can go on in that facility, but at some point in time, everybody's gonna have to come down to making a decision as to what actually is going to go into it. And then how is it gonna be paid for? You know, and we can't violate the anti-donation clause. I can't put 10 in there, I can't put Chamber of Commerce in there without having them pay market rate rent. Somebody's got to pay for the lights, somebody's got to pay for the insurance, somebody's got to pay for the upkeep of that facility. And all of that has got to be factored into the financial plan, regardless of whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit or whatever else. You know, museums make money. And if you put one in there, somebody's going to have to pay that bill. And so there may be a board that has to be created, a fundraising on hand that has to be put together. There's a lot of things that go into this sort of a project that I think have to be discussed and they have to be figured out. And some of that can be done with past experiences, what it's going to cost, what it's been costing, but then also what it's going to cost in the future if we can get the building up to par. And how much of the building is going to be there? I mean, there's been discussions about taking out the wings so that there's pathways between the dining house and the plaza. All of those things have to be put together in a way that is financially viable. So it's great to hear this idea, but I think it has to go much further. It has to become much more concrete before it can be considered by governmental entities, I think, because I don't know that the county has the budget, nor does the town have the budget right now to be the backup. So whatever is going to go on in that facility, I think is going to have to stand on its own 2 feet. And so you're going to have to look at presenting a long-term plan that makes that happen. And provide with tenants that can do that and can guarantee that. So I'm just saying this is a good starting point, but I think we're a long ways off before a decision can be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
I have a simple question. Mr. Archuleta, is the Old County Courthouse on the National Registry?
Yes, Councilman, it is.
Okay. I was wondering about that. Thank you. Yeah.
Councilor Hunt?
I want to thank you all for your presentation, and Mr. Archuleta, thanks for attending this afternoon. I would suggest, encourage you to maybe meet with Steve before the 19th to maybe flesh this out a little bit more. And then I know towards the end of our agenda, we've got to set up a date for a joint town-county meeting. And perhaps together, if our county officials are feeling ready, we can begin to explore some of this at that time. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Archuleta? Sorry, we're going to make sure you get your exercise.
It has wheels.
Absolutely. That would be fine, Councilman. Whenever if Mr. Bellis would go ahead and get some dates with me, if that's what you guys want to do, we can move forward with a work study. On the agenda right now is that we do have the first and third Tuesday, obviously, are commission meetings, and then we're scheduling a hospital one, but that'll probably be early September. So other than that, we'll accommodate that.
Thank you.
And it's great to hear the vibrant activity that we have on the plaza and continue that vibrant activity. I think it's collaboration between the town, the county, the events that go on, the business district downtown, and some kind of property management. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting, and hopefully we can work together on finding funding to revitalize that piece of property again collaboratively with both entities. If we can help, we'd love to help. I'm just one person here, but I think it's important that again, if we can find the funding to do it collaboratively, I think it's a big integral part of the downtown area, the merchants downtown really benefit from the revitalization of anything that goes on downtown. So we'd appreciate any collaboration that could happen. I understand through the presentation they will be presenting to you guys on the 19th, is that correct? And hopefully they again can come back and collaboratively, the two entities can get together to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, I totally agree with that premise, but that decision has to be made by the commission. They're the ones that set the policy for them. And again, I also agree with Councilman Peralta that there is a lot of different avenues that need to be explored prior to them entering into any agreement with anyone. So I agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Cordova, did you? Are we going to get a history lesson?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Bellis. My name is Arsenio Cordova. I'm a resident of El Prado, but also the owner of the Taos Historical Walking Tours and Sunday de Cristo Liturgies, which publishes liturgical music, Hispanic liturgical music. I think that, I saw this on the agenda myself, and I was kind of shocked. The first thing that you have to do with this Old County Courthouse is to find out, Councilwoman Cantu brought up the historical registry. It's a historical building. There are certain regulations that you have to follow when you do that. It's just, last year I got the award from the state for Cultural and Historical Preservation Lifetime Achievement Award because of the studies of the history of the Taos Valley and things like that. I used to belong to the Chamber of Commerce, but they never publicized any of our events in the magazines and things like that. So I decided to go nationally and publicize our business. There is no change in demographic. I disagree with Mr. Bellis when you say about the demographics of the people coming into Taos. I've done this for a long, long time, ranging in age from Boy Scouts all the way to senior citizens and people that travel to visit historic Taos. I don't think that when you go to other communities, you see the cultural district. We don't need a cultural district. It's there and it's existed for centuries here in Taos. Just the cultural district itself is an attraction to the people. The county owns the courthouse, and of course, those of us that live outside the city limits should have a say-so on that because we're the majority of the ownership of that particular courthouse. I think it's, we should take a lesson from things that have happened in the past and, make decisions because, we happen to be inside the town and we divide ourselves as a community. And we need to work together. I have never been contacted by the chamber or by anybody else. My reputation as a historian is well known in the community, but the people that were here presenting today didn't, have never, what's their demographic? They got together this morning. And formed a committee. Who did they ask or did they publicize that anybody interested should go to that? I wasn't contacted. I don't think anybody was. I read the legals and things like that. So we form committees. I used to have a county director here in Taos that used to say, whenever she wanted something, she'd form a committee and then come and say the committee decided. So it made it easy for us to not take the blame for making decisions. The courthouse belongs to the people, and there should be some input on it. We have some people that are doing a presentation here right now. I think there's other people that are willing to do presentations and would be willing to, wait for an RFP before anything like that would happen. But to form a committee in the morning and come to the council in the afternoon and to make it the agenda, county, and although Mr. Bellis came from the county to the city, he didn't bring ownership with him, of that. So please be very careful as to what you do and what you do. And also get somebody in your staff to study the historical designation that we have for historical buildings, and what can be done and cannot be done once that designation is there. We've had that with the museums, where you have to check with the national people before you can do any alterations and things like that.
Thank you, Arsenio.
Mr. Cordova, someone from that coalition is here, he's right behind you, Mr. Mapes. Are you part of the coalition? The Downtown Community Coalition?
Well, that was a very recently formed group, and I was at today's meeting, so at this morning's meeting, but I am on the Arts and Cultural District Board, which is included as this grouping, so maybe I am.
Well, would it be possible for you and Arsenio to exchange phone numbers so that we can be included in future meetings?
Of course.
Thank you, David. So, Dave,
Thank you. I'd be willing to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Nothing? Thank you, Arsenio. So next we'll go to Citizens Forum. Citizens wishing to speak shall have the opportunity and do so, and we'll limit them to 5 minutes. If there's anybody in the audience who wishes to speak, we'll hear from them now. Is this on a new subject, or is it the same subject?
Yes, good question. It's not on the subject.
Okay.
First of all, I wanted to thank you all for putting on the agenda the consideration of a public forum for the expansion of the airport. And I think I owe special thanks to Councilor Hahn and Town Manager Bellis for bringing this to a vote. So I'm embarrassed because I left my house in such a hurry that I forgot to bring the stack of petitions I have in opposition to the expansion of the airport. But I can run and get them, but I don't know if I can get them back in time for the vote. But there were over 800 signatures. And I have to say that in my interactions with the public, it's clear to me that the people of Taos and Taos County are very divided on the airport expansion. And there are 2 points of view on this, and I really appreciate your willingness to hear it. I don't know if you're going to vote to have a forum or not, but I just wanted to tell you 3 of my preferences for this forum. And one is that if there is going to be an educational panel prior to this forum, that opponents of the airport expansion would have equal time and their own experts in the panel. And then I would like to ask that there be lots of time devoted to citizen input. And of course, the citizens will have various opinions, so I'm not saying just input of citizens who oppose, but the input of the citizenry in such a forum if you vote to do it. And then I would also like to request that this forum happen before the bids are due to come back. So, because otherwise it would seem like more like an empty exercise. So that probably would mean within the next 2 weeks or so. Maybe there's a little bit more leeway than that. But anyway, I want to thank you very much for considering this issue, and thank you for being willing to vote on whether or not to have a forum.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn.
Anybody else?
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Barbara Hatfield, and first of all, I'm here in support of Marilyn Hoff. I live in the county, and I come to town many times, and without fail, Marilyn, who, by the way, is not special interest. She's not a rich white male. She's a concerned citizen. She does her homework, and I learn a lot from her. if I were an elected official, I think she'd be one I might give a call every now and then on certain issues, and I'm not trying to be flip. I believe if things aren't broken, don't fix them, or if they work, don't break them. I kind of live in a world I think is just breaking faster than I can keep up with. I'm a political junkie and hear things going on in the world. And I no sooner heard about a young man being gunned down in the streets of St. Louis than I heard that we had a police officer here that raped a 19-year-old woman in our jail. Is that true? I heard that yesterday on the news.
That is not true. This, I believe, Barbara, right?
Barbara, uh-huh.
Fritz, nice to meet you.
You too.
That was an officer who was employed here 6 or 7 years ago, and well, longer than that, the chief's saying 8 years ago, and employed in another county, another municipality, and truly tragic, yes. But your point is that he was an officer.
Well, somebody needs to get on that reporter. This was on the news yesterday several times on the AM station that I was listening to, and I was alarmed. And as a woman, I'm disgusted by what's happening with women in our little town and across the country. So, I think I might look into that further too, to see what happened and what resulted from that. That's totally inexcusable. But anyway, I digress, and thank you for straightening that out for me if that's the case. So I'm just here basically in support of Marilyn and John Green and others who doggedly care about this town and come here fully prepared to make arguments, not break anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, Stephen, Paul, just getting ready to come up.
Stevens Hall. In the tempo section of 31 July.
Pull that mic a little forward, maybe pull it around your, there you go. Thank you.
In the tempo section of the 31 July edition of the Taos News, the Web Readers Response Survey asked on page 69, should Dan Barrone step down from the Taos County Board of Commissioners? Just under 58% of respondents answered yes. No, you shouldn't resign, Mr. Barrone. I believe not just many, but every one of those respondents would, should, and even must respond no on reading and reflecting upon the 16 June 2014 Santa Fe, New Mexican front page article titled, New Mexico Bakery Owner Says Governors Can't Put Words in His Mouth. If the Taos News wants to provide our community with full disclosure and balanced reporting before they ask such a survey question, they should first print or reprint that Santa Fe, New Mexican front page article carried by their sister show. Each week, the Taos News reprints many page columns and many page inches containing an extraordinary number of blurbs from other newspapers and their gatherers, consolidators, and other sources, including sister ships. How could the Taos News miss such an important front page article? An article detailing Susana Martinez's campaign, creating and printing words, lies in this instance, ascribed to the voice and person of an individual community member, Juan Garcia of Las Vegas' Pedro's Bakery, who disavowed such words. Why did the Santa Fe, New Mexican bury the article in the least conspicuous front page geography below highlights of coming attractions, that is, articles within, and just above the weather in the furthest left-hand corner? This is way down in the left-hand corner where the article appears on the front page. KRQE News questioned the Martinez campaign and first reported on 17 June that the campaign replied, quote, an apparent miscommunication with our staff resulted in this situation, and we immediately corrected the error. I think the correction was the removal of an email. That doesn't sound like a correction to me. The error, quote, in this case, happens to be a lie without question. I say it wasn't a mere miscommunication. It was a gross and intentional malcommunication intended to hurt and to do wrong, and that malcommunication stands in the condition of moral turpitude, as do those who participated in its creation and those who refuse to condemn in the clearest terms that malcommunication. I'll use something to explain the difference between mis and mal from Black's Law Dictionary. In the definition of misfeasance, it says misfeasance as in miscommunication, mis being the operative term here, MIS. Misfeasance is the improper doing of an act which a person might lawfully do. Malfeasance is in malcommunication. Malfeasance is the doing of an act which a person ought not to do at all. It was a malcommunication. I say Susana Martinez participates fully and with intention in the words and lies ascribed to her campaign by virtue of her not having condemned quickly and with words of extraordinary clarity, both personally and as an elected official, her absolute disgust with and absolute disapproval of the moral bankruptcy of her campaign. Those pushing her agenda, working for her, creating words, sentences, and lies that she either must stand by or disavow. It's way past too late, Susanna. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Your voice is not welcome in this community, Ms. Martinez, nor is the voice of your agent or agent provocateur. No one anywhere in any community should tolerate such voice or voices or vote for such person or persons. How can such abusive and destructive thoughts, words, and actions be tolerated or pardoned in our civic discourse, in our neighborhoods, in our communities? How can such behavior even be contemplated, much less condoned and permitted in our elections? In the 27 March 2014 edition of the Taos News, Tempo section, page 45, someone lurking behind the internet, how much time does that mean I have?
Very short time.
Someone lurking behind the internet moniker, a fly on the wall, wrote, Rick and Jacob, referring to Rick Bellis and Jacob Caldwell, are as corrupt as the county commission, including Dan. The March 13th edition, this same person, fly on the wall, who writes nothing as far as I'm concerned but crap on the wall, says, Dan has been commissioner for District 1 Taos and has done nothing. Move back to Taos County, Darren, and we would appreciate you. I've said before that Jacob is the model public steward. I've had many interactions with Mr. Bellis. Mr. Bellis has never, ever been anything than forthright with me. I disagree with him on maps. Our first argument was about maps. I disagree with him on the branding of the community. I don't think that we should let others vote. We'll decide and we'll brand ourselves, please, Mr. Bellis. And I will continue to ask for his help. This person says that Jacob and Rick are corrupt. I'll tell you what corrupt is. Corrupt is not having a yearly updated zoning map, which occurred during the tenure and the oversight of Darren Cordova. That's corrupt. That's wrong. Corrupt is debased. Why? I mean, the map is intended to show the future of this community, and essentially it is kept behind closed doors, behind curtains, I don't know what. Go away. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else? None, we'll go on to matters.
One last thing, and this was actually important. For the longest time, the town attorney used to sit far left there. Through the actions of Darren Cordova, it seems that the town went from an attorney to hired hands to counsel from Santa Fe. We've got a good attorney right now, Jacob Caldwell. I would like, as soon as I get up and walk away, and I think that the facilities engineer can come up and remove that name and stick it with Stephen Velcro. I know it can be done. And ask Mr. Caldwell to please join you, so that we know that in the future, when we get new attorneys, and it's too bad that Jacob's not going to stay with us, maybe someday he'll be back, we'll know what kind of shoes we want filled. I think it's important. And that's the place where if you have a student, a member of this council, that's where they should sit. That's where they should sit anyway. They should sit next to the clerk asking questions about how things happen. They don't need to be sitting up there deciding. That's the place for the student, and that's the place for the professional.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we'll go on to matters from staff. Resolution 1437, personal policy amendment. Amy? Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and Mr. Town Manager. So before you, we have a resolution 14-37, a resolution to change part of the personnel policy. And this is to clarify some provisions in the policy. Right now, we're asking that the main change is so that way any employee who wants to take leave from their position from the town of Taos, that they give 30 days immediate notice, that they can take 30 days of leave prior to their leave, prior to the election, if they're running for any partisan office. And before, they would have to, in the previous personnel policy, it said that they had to take leave from the time that they accepted the nomination to the election. So we're asking to change that provision and update that policy. So I stand for any questions.
Councilor Peralta?
Mayor, what is the policy on
What is the policy on nonpartisan elections?
Nonpartisan, sorry.
Shouldn't be the same. And shouldn't be in the same section.
Yes.
I'm saying that, for example, one of our employees is running for the council in Weston. Non-partisan election. I don't think that falls under the Hatch Act either, does it?
No, the Hatch Act by,
It's for federal employees. And
that's right,
federal.
for fully federally funded positions.
Correct.
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor and council members, while Amy's finding the direct provision, I'll give a little additional background. So in May of last year, this council approved a new personnel policy, sort of bifurcated what was at one point one comprehensive personnel policy in the form of an ordinance into what is now a governance and personnel policy that mostly deals with department heads and appointed officials, and so that's currently one aspect of the personnel policy. The other has been bifurcated in the form of a personnel policy that was approved by action of the council, not in the form of a resolution or ordinance. And that new personnel policy changed what the policy with regard to running for political office was, so that this provision that's before you today applies to individuals running for partisan office. The provision regarding individuals running for nonpartisan office does not require taking any leave prior to the election, as currently written. That's certainly something that this council could consider as part of this amendment. And, it's something that I would suggest that you discuss at the very least, because what's being proposed is that instead of, well, first of all, the way it's written right now is incredibly vague, and it has led to some different interpretations, and that's why we wanted to seek some clarification on it. In discussing it among staff, we discovered that it's not entirely clear whether the council, in considering this new policy, was even aware or deliberated about whether somebody that's running for office should have to take the entire term of their campaign off, whether they should have to take part of that campaign off, or whether they should not have to take any of that campaign off. And then the sub-question is whether that should apply any differently between nonpartisan and partisan elections. There's a lot to kind of digest in that regard. I can say, to give you an example of what other entities do, the county's policy currently is that if you're running for a partisan election, you take 30 days off prior to the election. And there are exceptions if you're running unopposed.
That policy doesn't apply in nonpartisan elections. In other words, elections like municipal elections or school board elections that don't involve a party, i.e. Democrat and Republican parties. This might be viewed differently from the town's perspective because the town's elections are nonpartisan elections. So with that as background, I would certainly respond to any questions you have. I can provide the language of the policy as it existed before May of 2013, or I can just defer to the council to discuss and consider this proposed resolution.
Council.
Mr. Mayor, I brought up the red line, and it's that paragraph C, which gives no restrictions whatsoever to an employee who's running for a nonpartisan office. Concern I would have would be that an employee of the town would be running for the town council or mayor and be able to keep their employment. And I'm just saying, what is the difference between that and partisan? I think there should be a pretty much similar situation for both. It's public office. My concern is more than anything else is that employee using their employment as a place to do politics.
And Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Peralta, I absolutely agree. I think really the intent of the policy is to prevent employees from taking advantage of their employment position to campaign. Now, that is dealt with in another part of our policy, and that part would remain intact. That strictly prohibits any use of employee time or resources to further their campaign. The real question is whether, as a further policy matter, the town wants to take the position that it's just too fraught with potential for conflict for an employee to be running for office, and in particular, those 30 days leading up to an election. And I can say that a lot of entities, both kind of municipalities and counties, have taken the position that it is too fraught, and therefore they've prohibited even going to work during those 30 days. Now, that is a policy decision. There's nothing that requires that, there's no federal or state regulation that requires somebody to not work during that period of time. But it's clearly been deliberated on by other bodies, and it's not uncommon that they've reached that conclusion that in order to strike an appropriate balance, an employee should have to take some time off, and the question is how much.
Council, anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just thinking that my feeling is that whether you're running for partisan office or non-partisan office, I think the same rules should apply. That's just my feeling.
And Mr. Mayor and council members, I think that's probably appropriate, particularly because the offices that these employees might engage in running for in the town that would create the greatest conflict are nonpartisan offices. One additional thing I'll throw out there for your consideration is if you're inclined to go in that direction, it's important to note that school board candidacy would be included in that. So if you're running for school board, it would be, if it was lumped into this requirement that you take 30 days off, it would be included unless you made it a direct exemption or exclusion for those purposes. And just following other examples, it's not uncommon that running unopposed for office would be excluded from that requirement. And I think the justification for that is fairly obvious. But I'd want to include those two things explicitly to make it clear and avoid any further variation in interpretation.
Any further questions, discussion from council? Staff? Amy?
I agree with Jacob. I believe maybe if we add those provisions about nonpartisan school board, it would help to clarify the policy, and that way it would be easier to implement when somebody comes to us with those kinds of issues or concerns. They would know exactly what kind of leave they would be looking at. And the actual number of days was a recommendation, but you know, it is up for your direction and decision. So.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, just one last question, Mr. Caldwell. Can we amend this to include nonpartisan since that was not a published action? Or do we have to do that as a second publication notification before, so that there could be, because the public input on this is not available since they didn't know we would be taking action on it.
Mr. Mayor and council members, you know, in my opinion, it would be perfectly appropriate for you to consider amending the personnel policy, which again is not in the form of an ordinance, to include both partisan and nonpartisan employees, because the agenda item, in my opinion, was inclusive of changes to this entire section, public political office within the personnel policy.
Mr. Mayor, then I will make a motion to approve item 1437 for discussion.
Do you have a second to that?
Second.
Do you have a second discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to that motion to include nonpartisan elections with the same language for partisan election.
Okay with my second, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a motion and a second to that?
And Mr. Mayor and council members, I just have a query because staff will be charged with drafting this language, which I'm very comfortable doing, but I do want to be clear about whether the motion would apply equally to all nonpartisan elections, i.e. including both municipal elections and school board elections, for example.
And I thought about a little bit about school board elections, but I think that I think they should be included. I really do. I think that anytime you're running for a public office, that you should take time off and remove yourself from that potential conflict with paragraph there.
And just, Jake, under discussion, mention about unopposed, is that, this would cover that, or wouldn't?
Mr. Mayor and council members, certainly if the intent is to exclude unopposed elections, I think it would be better to state it explicitly both in the motion and in the language of the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, if I could amendment to add a sentence at the end of the underlined red to say exempt from this policy shall be unopposed elections.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr.
All right.
I should say unopposed elections, it should be unopposed candidates.
Unopposed candidates.
Jacob, I thought I heard you say just a few minutes ago that the town's personnel code dealt with a lot of this in other areas, in other sections of the personnel policy. Could you enlighten us about that at some point? Are we duplicating efforts here?
Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Hahn, no, I should clarify that what is dealt with in other sections of the personnel policy is the actual use of an employee's time to conduct political activity, which is strictly prohibited. There is no other section that deals with whether an employee has to be on leave leading up to a campaign. This is the section that deals with that, and this is the section that would need to be amended in order to change what's in place today.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, the section that he's talking about is paragraph F of this section that says that you cannot use any public facilities, equipment, or so forth to campaign or time.
So let's, for clarification, I'd like for the motion to be, and the amendments to be restated.
The amendment to the motion is to add the red underlined portion of paragraph B to paragraph C with the additional language that unopposed candidates are not subject to this policy.
We have a second to that?
Second.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Or
and council members, once again, I just need to be clear on this. It's my understanding that the motion includes the same requirement of both partisan and nonpartisan candidates prior to their election, their respective election.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Councilman Peralta?
Okay, any further discussion? Not, call for the vote.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Concha?
Yes.
Councilmember Lyon?
Yes.
So move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we're not done yet, Mr. Mayor, I would move that we close the discussion on the original motion and that we vote in the affirmative with the amendment.
We have a motion, we have a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Lyon?
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Concha?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members
Thank
of the
you.
council.
We'll move on to resolution 1434, Water Rights Trust termination. Mr. Caldwell.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This is a complicated item. There's a lot of materials in your agenda packet. I hope you've all had a chance to review not only the explanation as background, but also the materials that have been provided. I also would like, in introducing this item, to defer to a couple of members of the audience, potentially for questions. Those being Scott Sanger, and I believe he's got Paul Dracos here as well, because Paul can potentially answer any of the specific technical questions regarding quantities of water rights and where they currently reside. Now, in general, this is a matter that commenced in the mid-1990s when a family that owned, at that time, approximately 155 or 156 acres, more or less, in Lower Las Colonias, entered into a trust agreement with the town by which this family, the Hughes family, was going to convey all their water rights appurtenant to that land to the town, for the town to hold in trust for the benefit of the members of the family and any other beneficiaries that they designated thereafter. The underlying intent of the trust agreement was that the town would transfer the point of diversion and place and purpose of use of these water rights from this land in Lower Las Colonias to the town of Taos well system, and that the Hughes family would thereafter derive the benefit of those water rights by being able to develop within the town and hook into the town's water system, or would be able to assign that ability to develop and hook into the town system to beneficiaries of their choosing. Now, the intent of the trust was frankly never consummated because the transfer application that was submitted to the state engineer's office was never approved. It was filed, and there were several procedural issues, and at least the protest of the Taos Pueblo that intervened and caused the parties at that time in the late 1990s to ultimately determine to withdraw the application, and there is an order and a letter in your agenda packet to that effect. So these water rights have been, in essence, been sort of sitting in limbo ever since. The state engineer's office classifies them as being owned currently by the town of Taos as trustee, and in prior attempts by the current, what's left of the original members of this family through various partnerships and assignations, has for several years attempted to get the town to sign off on releasing these rights back to the beneficiaries of the trust, and it just hasn't happened. I am recommending that the town agree to what is being designated a termination of the trust, the effect of which would be to allow the state engineer's office to rename the actual ownership of these water rights in the names of the beneficiaries of the trust, and to allow those individuals and entities to move on with ownership of those water rights being still pertinent to the land as it always has been. I can talk you through all of the background materials that are in your agenda packet. Scott Sanger, who represents some of the members of what is left of this original family and its various sub-entities. But primarily, I'd like you to take a look at our proposed resolution. It's Resolution 1438, which essentially authorizes the execution of a water rights trust agreement termination. And then obviously the other thing I'd like you to look at is the proposed trust termination. Now, I should let you know that the substantive portions of the trust termination have not changed at all since they were originally placed on the agenda last week. Some of the technical aspects of the exhibits, some of the numbers have been corrected because there were some inconsistencies. And once again, that's an area where I would like to suggest both Paul and Scott can provide more information if you have any questions. What is on the agenda right now, if you're looking on your Novus agenda, is the final, as far as I'm concerned, correct version of the proposed trust termination document. Hoping that that's sufficient introduction to start a discussion, I'm going to defer to council and make myself available to answer any questions and do my best to provide answers to those questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to hear from Mr. Sanger and maybe just a brief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Jake, Renee. This has been going on for quite a while. This has been going on for years. My letter says it all. Councilor Peralta was involved almost from the start. At the time, the town had a couple of very good attorneys, I believe, and Professor Paul Bloom and Ben Phillips. And there is a letter from them in your package that quite clearly shows that they were representing town of Taos at the time. I happened to be there at the office of the state engineers for the final adjudication hearing when Taos Pueblo showed up and said, not so fast. It was the first time that a transfer of water rights, to my knowledge, had been protested by Taos Pueblo. But that was consistent with positions that they had taken in now the 50-year-old debate to litigation. Councilor Peralta was there, I was there. These two water rights attorneys were known as the best. We were lucky the town had them at the time. Anyway, at that point, when the Pueblo protested, the application was withdrawn from the office of the state engineer, and the water rights were left in trust with town for many years. In recent years, this goes back to town manager Benavides after he became town manager after being town attorney. We asked him at that time to allow the beneficiaries to terminate the trust. In your package is a copy of the trust document, and in fact, it does say the beneficiaries can do it. We have gone through several town attorneys and several town managers since then. I was never called off, if you will. My clients still wanted to go ahead and terminate the trust for certain uses. Initially, the uses that were proposed were for the Taos Living Center and for Taos Hospital and Taos County Economic Development Corporation. Taos Living Center and Taos Holding Company, two of the beneficiaries of the trust, actually purchased these water rights from the Hughes family. Their intent was to use them to follow the town ordinance to transfer water rights to the town for hookups. When this all cratered because the Pueblo protest, both Taos Living Center and Taos Holding Company went ahead and bought water rights from town of Taos that were available from the town at that time. The third entity, Taos County Economic Development Department, could not buy water rights from the town of Taos in a way that would make any difference, simply because where TCEDC's complex is built, it's out on Salazar Road, and Salazar Road and the sewer lines out there weren't constructed yet. So TCEDC, because we were ready to go and ready to open, drilled its own well. Never, ever spent their water rights. At this point, these water rights are still in the trust. There's a history to the ownership that Mayor BARRONE was involved in, Jake Caldwell was involved in when Jake was at the county, and this came about where all the partners in this plan to develop the land decided not to be partners anymore. And so what we have is one of the partners wants their water rights back. They want to use it. They want to put them to use on their land, but they're still here in the trust, and that's this is Mike and Wendy Jones, and they're here in the audience. They've been helping us try to deal with several town attorneys across the years and trying to get this back on track. I believe that the town attorneys across these past few years were not water rights practitioners. There are very few water rights practitioners who are well known throughout the state, and attorneys here at the time, this was all new. Water rights language is very technical. It's very specific, and that's why I asked Paul to join me, because he's been involved in these water rights from the beginning, and his company, Gloria Geoscience, had been consultants to town of Taos for a great many years, and certainly through the beginning of the Aveta litigation when it got serious. Since then, with the replacement town attorneys and with replacement town water rights consultants, there's been a lot of confusion, and it has resulted in this request for the termination of the trust not even making it to town council previously. Well, we're back, and it's a very simple request. We would like to have the beneficiaries' right to terminate the trust in part. Each one gets to terminate their own, and that's what the ordinance before you does, and that's what the trust termination agreement provides. Questions? It's complicated.
Call Counselor?
I make a motion we approve resolution 14-38 for discussion.
And I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, over the years, I've had many discussions with Mr. Sander and representatives of the trust and ownership of different sections of those water rights. And my recommendation to the council is this time is to honor the request. I feel that it's proper and timely, not timely actually, but proper. This time. I think this is something that needs to be done. The idea was to ensure that the water rights were not lost by the parties of owner because the land was not being irrigated. And under the state law that allowed for banking is the reason that this was done in order to protect and preserve those water rights for the future of this community. Because they are the ownership or belong to the Hughes Family Trust, they should go there and determine how they should be used in the community or otherwise.
I can tell you that some of the beneficiaries are more than willing to sell their water rights to the town instead of putting them to use on the land. These are water rights from the Arroyo Seco, and to my knowledge, the town has a shortage of Seco water rights. Certainly, one of the beneficiaries, TCEDC, would love to be able to sell the rights to the town because TCEDC needs the money.
And Scott, they would have to come back and ask to terminate.
Well, no, the way the document is put together, it's a mechanical document, and all they have to do is ask for the rights to be released from the trust. Each of the beneficiaries has got their own right to get the release. It's just pitching TCEDC because they need the money and they have the rights and they're not using them.
Anything else from council? So there is a motion and a second on the floor. If no further discussion, call for the vote.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Will there be water in the pond?
Now
Are you planning to go swimming or fishing? Hunting? No, hunting.
thank you all.
There used to be ducks in that pond all the time for years. In that field, there was ducks and there was ducks and there was even fishing back there, back in, I don't know, when I first moved in that area.
But we're trying to get the water flowing, and we are working with the SAT Association to try and make this all work. They've asked for some water rights for ponding, which can only help upstream ponding so that water can be preserved. There is a trench that used to be a full pond on the property that Hughes still have, and they are open to agricultural use of that ponding, and we have been working with TCEDC again, a pilot project with those rights to use.
Thank you. And Mr. Archuleta, you, the gentleman in the back of the room, these are the people that when we had all that flooding in Lower Los Colonias, they allowed the county to drain into their property, into that field and into that pond. So if it ever happens again, we might make sure we're good neighbors with them, because it will happen again in that area, because that's where,
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Pat.
And Jacob, thank you for this great work on this project.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Mayor? Can I just point out one typographical error that is within the resolution?
Please.
And that's, now therefore be it resolved that the town of Taos approves and hereby authorizes the mayor to be signed. So the mayor to be, or the mayor to sign.
Thank you for pointing that out, Councilor. I'm going to consider that a de minimis typographical change because of prior further action, but I'll make sure it's changed before it's finalized.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to C, road construction update. Mr. French and No, Council, we just want to make sure that everybody's on board on what's going on within the community and what roads are going to be paved and road closures that possibly could happen. And it's just an exciting time for us to move forward on some of the contracts and monies that have been allocated or have been come to the town through grants or whatever avenue they did come through. So, Mr. Espinosa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Rick had asked me to put together a list of projects and some timelines. However, when I did that, it was too large to email, because it had the timeline from receiving any grant funding all the way down to engineering and design through completion. So because it was too large, I reduced it down to this simple Word document that's in front of you. So I apologize for getting it to you so late, and I hope that you had an opportunity to go ahead and take a look at it. With that, we have 9 road projects that we are currently engaged in. 2 of those are combined, which is the Bertha Road rehabilitation and the La Costa Sur crossing. We actually broke ground on that project last Wednesday, and they've already removed the existing asphalt, and they started lowering utilities so that they could get to the correct grades. The other project that is on here that's very visible is Town Hall Drive. And as of today, that is at about 95% complete. So there's a ribbon cutting, from my understanding, today at 4 o'clock. So we also listed 4 projects that we are currently partnered up with UNM-Taos. I did call and ask for an update on those projects, and I didn't receive that before this meeting. So once I do, I'll provide it to Rick so that he may forward it to the mayor and council. And the other project is, or the 4th project of that partnership is with Taos County. The RFP for design has been reviewed and approved by Rick, so we actually are in the process of getting it out. We've been in contact with the contract section over at UNM-Taos, and they have informed us that the bonds for the town of Taos were sold so we can move forward with the project. However, the bonds for Taos County's portion were not sold, so we'll have to break the RFP up into two separate projects, unless they could somehow be addressed before December, or sold in December. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will try and answer any questions that you or the council may have.
Council Peralta?
French, Estes Road and Salazar Road, you have a bid date now in August. Do you have a date specific as to when those will be on the street?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, I do, however, I don't recall that date. Again, I'll be more than happy to provide our long chart to you, because it has all the milestone dates identified on that. Again, it was too large to email and put on your notice agenda.
The other one is that yesterday I emailed Mr. Bellis about signage so that our customers can get to the recycling center. Do you have any instructions for the public as to how they might best get in there without being too disruptive to the construction project?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, I did receive the email from Rick. I haven't heard any complaints. However, I did make contact with the contractor to get some signs made up so that we can direct the traffic to the center. right now, probably the best way to get it would be off of Salazar Road, because that's a direct line to the center without having to go through other neighborhoods. And as we proceed with the project, we'll have to move that, we'll have to adjust that staging to accommodate the users of the recycle center.
See, my feeling is that in front of the yard, that's Dia, coming either off of 68 or Salazar Road to Dia, up to Dia, right into the recycling center, and back again off Dia, would be as little disruption as possible to the contractor that's there, and it's just a short distance into the recycling center back out again without getting into any of the street.
Yeah, basically you're crossing Bertha Road is all you're doing. Okay.
Council, anything else?
Mr. Mayor, there was additionally one item on here just that we want to mention, not that it's on the roads improvement, but that within the transit department, we have a program for installing new bus stops. And as probably all of you have noticed, the building that was in the parking lot of Smith's is being demolished. The contract with Kroger is Silva Construction, which is also doing a project right out here. They're finishing that up. We did have plans to do a curb cut in there to allow the buses to get out of traffic and pull in into the new station. It would have made little sense to have the construction company tear out the curb and the median to get to the utilities and then have to put sidewalk and landscaping back in. We would have come along later and taken that out. So we do have the ability, and then we have a block-to-block list of approved contractors. And after discussing the matter with the purchasing agent, finance director, public works director, and I contacted you and decided that we would move ahead to coordinate those two projects. We think it'll wind up in less expense and a better project for the town. It'll get its high visibility and it'll get done very quickly.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask one question. French, with regards to Kroger and the whole Smith's area and Los Fondos Road, and as funky as a term as that is, did we ever find out if there was any language written in there on the gas station approval that would straighten that road out for us?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, and I'm going off of memory here. I believe what was in the agreement is they would make a contribution to that cause, not necessarily take it under their own umbrella and do it. Yes, that's correct.
Rick, do you think we can approach them and ask them what kind of contribution they'd be willing to give?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I think there's a number of things under discussion in regards to that intersection, including the DOT study. And we have a meeting coming up next week, and we can bring that up.
Okay.
Hopefully, at the September meeting, we'll have a little clearer picture from DOT and some property owners as to what the plans are for that intersection.
Okay.
Anything else?
French, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa, thank you. Appreciate it.
I just have another question. Did the contractor supposed to start that line as well? Replacement of the line, or is he going to do that later?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, he is, they'll probably start it here within the next couple of weeks. They're waiting for approval on submittals to the engineering firm on two processes that they have proposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. At least everybody's up to date and we have kind of some idea of where we're moving. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks, French.
So, councilors, we'll go on to town's manager's report, and I want to just say I do have a unfortunate situation where I do have to leave and be at a rosary for my niece, and then a funeral in the morning, and I would like to work down the agenda as far as we can, but leaving me enough time to drive to that rosary. But I would like to see if we couldn't move the executive session up so that I could be part of that. But I think we might have enough time for the next two items, and then maybe move to, we can amend the agenda to accommodate my schedule if we could. So we'll go ahead and go on to the town manager's report, LA Mainstreet Arts and Cultural District. Mr. Bellis.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Put in your packages a letter from Rich Williams, the State Director of Mainstreet Arts and Culture District programs. And in that, he outlines a 90-day time frame from the date of the letter to receive a response from either the town and county, or the town or the county, I guess, as to whether we intend to complete a letter of agreement. There's previously been a letter of agreement signed by the county and sent in, and in earlier correspondence, Mr. Williams found that unacceptable. This is a subject, I guess, that's been a ping-pong ball between the town and the county, and had a lot of heated debate over the past year. And so I'm seeking the advice and direction of the council as to how they wish to proceed on this.
Councilman Peralta.
Yeah, Mr. Bellis, on this agreement, letter of agreement is the April, there's not an update. So this would still include a MOU working relationship with the county in order to sign this, am I correct or not?
It's my understanding, in speaking to Mr. Williams, that he has no preference for how the LOA or the agreement is structured, just that a governmental entity needs to sign the LOA in order for the designations to remain in place. And he had a meeting which I and the mayor attended with the ACB Mainstreet board, and this letter of agreement reflects some of those changes that came up at that meeting, including preferences that were expressed by Councilman Gonzalez, and I believe yourself at one point, that there was a preference for the employee rather than being a contracted entity to be an employee of the town or the county or some governmental entity to be accountable, and that the board of directors actually can be more of an advisory board in this capacity, and he's a little more vague in the language to allow, I guess, for a model that we've been asking him for, rather than a freestanding nonprofit that was contracted by one of the government entities, which I think the attorneys have felt would create an anti-donation problem.
You know, this never came before the council previously because of some disagreements. So there was never any action taken by the council. But in my discussions with the previous manager, some of the concerns that I had on signing this document was that there was no business plan behind it. So we didn't know from the council standpoint as to what the budget, how it was going, you know, what the manpower was going to be involved in it, and that sort of thing, and costs related to that, nor where it was going to be housed, because there was discussions to contract with ACDC, which, ACDC. With the Arts and Cultural District. and at that time, they couldn't create themselves as a public entity to contract with them. My understanding is that still hasn't happened, but So the idea of bringing it in-house and having an employee do that is one thing. I still like the other idea, that it be contracted with an entity and have them responsible for doing it. But in so doing, we would still have to have some sort of a financial plan as to what the costs over the next 2 or 3 years is going to be. And that was my argument back then, and it's still my argument now, is that I hate to get into a project that I have no idea what it's going to cost or what the liability that I'm entering into. And that's all I ever asked for. And I had asked for it from the Arts and Cultural District people to provide that to them, and they just never came up with it. That started the discussion we had in those meetings with other members of the historical district business community. And that's all I'm asking for, is I think that to enter this thing, we need to make sure that our eyes are wide open and we know what we're approving and budgeting to do this project. And that's, because I think that the Mainstreet program and the Arts and Cultural District is an important aspect of the community, but we can't do it if we don't know. It's the same thing that I was talking about earlier with the courthouse. If you don't know what the cost is going in, or anticipated what the operation can be, we don't know what we're heading into and what we're obligating ourselves and future councils or commissioners to doing it. That's my question.
I think just to echo those sentiments along those lines, I think it's equally important that we try to collaborate with the county somehow to be a player with us in the AC, not just the ACD, but the Mainstreet program, because of the fact that it's both our communities. It's both valued and benefit driven to the county side as equally as it is to the city. So I extend that hand out to you, Mr. Archuleta, to pass on to the commission as well to see if there's any way, shape, or form that we can engage together to make it as viable as possible.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I would be happy to take anything in front of the commission that the council would like to put forward, reference that. Just for purposes of clarification, the only reason the county actually wanted to take over the program was because we thought it was important. And at that time, it was the decision of the mayor and the manager not to move forward with that, and that's the old administration, I understand that. That's why we put the proposal in front of the state office, and that's why we try to step up to the plate and actually take that on. Since then, we have not budgeted anything for this endeavor, and it would be something that I would have to take back to the commission as a form of a proposal. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Steve.
And Mr. Archuleta, before you go, I do have a question also. Mr. Bellis, maybe you can clarify, but it's my understanding we do have a time factor here, that we do have to respond to Mr. Williams's request, and responding to that will keep us in a temporary status, enabling us to attain, I believe it's $40,000 in ACD funding, and I don't want to lose that opportunity. Could you clarify, Rick, how far off base am I, or am I right on?
There's no funding attached to the Arts and Culture District per se, or a promise of funding under the Mainstreet program. There wasn't this year, but in most years there's been a legislative appropriation to Mainstreet communities, which mimics the CDBG program that you could, if you're a Mainstreet community, you can apply for. There was $75,000 out of that fund set aside under the prior administration, and because the town did not renew the program, that money went back. Mr. Williams has indicated that while there's no money now, if they get money in the next session, he would be willing to put that back. It's my understanding secondhand that State Representative Gonzalez had appropriated last year $20,000 for activities for the ACD Mainstreet organization. It was relayed to me that that's still there, that the appropriation was good for 3 years, but I don't have any firsthand information on that. There was money set aside in the budget that you approved as the town council out of the historic district, out of whatever was ever left. We moved the parking fines to Councilman Peralta had indicated when we brought that budget in, and he said he wanted to see a way to fully fund that. So we took the parking fines and put them in with the revenues from the parking meters. So it was about $45,000, which we felt was enough to do a contract employee until as a placeholder until we knew what we wanted to do with the program.
So I guess my thinking is, I think Councilman Peralta has a valid point. Budgets are necessary. Collaboration with the county is hugely important. It's paramount. I agree with Councilman Gonzalez and Rick, but what is the most reasonable course for us to take at this point with Mr. Archuleta here and these other concerns being raised? How can we work our way through this maze?
Well, as you're aware, Councilman, you were at a meeting of the board at which Mr. Archuleta and I were present trying to unravel this ball of yarn. And I don't think because there's no money from the county, and I don't think there's an expectation that there would be, but they do have the courthouse and they do have the space that we could put in as an in-kind contribution to, which is helpful in the budget to attract other dollars. And obviously, we're a little short of office space here, too. As far as a budget, I would say the difficulty, and I certainly asked Steve to respond to, I think the difficulty has been that normally you would do a Mainstreet program, which would include bank presidents and CPAs and lawyers and people of a real business acumen that would get this national structure going, and before they went off and created these other programs like the arts districts. And for whatever reason, historically, the state chose to create an arts district first and had a group of artists that it expected to produce business plans and a lot of these things. And that just hasn't happened. You know from that meeting that there is an agreement by the ACB board as well as the state that now that there is a Mainstreet designation, that there needs to be a Mainstreet board, and that the state has agreed and provided an organizational chart which shows that the ACB would not be a board of directors, it would be a committee of the Mainstreet program, and probably merge in with the Arts Council to focus on that. I would say that if we're going to meet this deadline realistically, it's probably going to have to be the town staff that put a proposal together with a realistic budget based on the revenues that are available, with a projection of where the other funding could come from. And there certainly are other sources that have funded in the past, the McCune Foundation, the banks. However, they've been kind of in suspended animation and also taken money back unspent because nobody's really known where the program is. So I think if we take the lead and we put it together, there are ways to fund it.
Steve, do you have any thoughts about that?
Councilman, I think the main thing that I wanted to do is make sure that we clarified where the county stood on this. Any proposal that would have to come in front of the county commission would actually set the policy as to how we're going to move forward. But we did not budget for that. We just didn't have the funds to do it this year, and we did not budget for it. So I just want to be real clear on that. As far as the space goes, again, that will be determined through the process on the 19th. I have asked the Arts and Cultural District if they want to come and present in front of the commission for consideration of that space, and they're more than welcome to come up and do that. And again, as was mentioned earlier, we have not kicked them out. We have not told them they can't have meetings there. We're continuing that process as we move forward.
So I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor and Councilman Peralta and Cantu Gonzalez, if we should go ahead and approve this for the moment with the understanding that Mr. Bellis and Archuleta have work to do with not only the commission, but us, business plans, and those collaborative efforts need to be made. What are your thoughts about that?
I'd like to see the effort move forward, and because the county does have vested interest in the courthouse and is in the historic district, I would hate to lose Mainstreet. I think we really need to work towards a goal together and do the best that we can to bring it forward.
And I would like to attain Mr. Peralta's accountability measures. At the same time, though, I really don't want to step on our county commissioner's toes in any way. This is really just a good faith effort to try and figure our way through this.
Councilman Peralta?
If I could, in looking at this letter from Mr. Williams, I'm assuming that we are in probation for 90 days from July 18th.
That is correct.
So approximately we have another 65 days.
Yes.
Is it possible, Mr. Willis, for you to put together a 3-year business plan, starting off with a small budget and then anticipating grants or whatever into ongoing years, and in a way that you think that these monies would be used within the district to promote the Mainstreet and arts and culture? And we can use that as a kind of a baseline to start this program off. I just hate to get into it without anything to look back on and saying, you know, this is the minimum that we need, but what is that going to do? Is it going to do anything, or is it just going to have somebody sitting in an office? And that's my concern, is that we don't continue what I felt has been kind of a just, we're there, but we're not really doing anything sort of situation. And if we're going to move, and our goal is to create economic development, then there has to be some action taken by this program, however we structure it. And I just want to see something that has that ability for us to be able to monitor if there's any progress or if there's not, as to why and what corrective action is being taken place. But I think that's been part of the problem in the past, is we haven't really had any way to make a determination as to whether or not we're moving ahead or not going back, because we just never had a true business plan developed. And I think that's where I would like to see it. So it's the same question I asked of the Cal Sports Alliance and the Echo Park. It's, you know, to do something to say this is where we intend to go over the next few years, and not just continue with funding, status quo. And we're going to have something that's moving ahead and making action. And that's all I'm asking for, is that we have some sort of plan to say that we can look at down as we go along, to say we're making progress, we're not making progress, and how do we put corrective action in place. And that's, we've got to have some place to start.
You know, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
So I think I'm asking for Mr. Bellis to answer
Mr.
my
Mayor,
question.
Councilman Peralta, yeah, and actually, well, the state doesn't use it. The national model for Mainstreet has a series of forms which show the programs, the staffing, the expenses, and break it down even into the committees and the activities, and tie the budgets into that. And that is supposed to be done at the beginning of the program, because then that determines, those same forms are used for your reporting, both the levels of service and how you would spend your money. And we could do that. We're going to presume some goals here based on the plans that have been approved by the county for the Arts and Cultural District, but I think it can be fairly accurate. And if that is approved, and I think you deserve to have that, and it's more into the business Mainstreet model, I believe that even then, if you have an advisory board and there are changes, there's a process for changing those forms, and they're supposed to come back to the governing bodies. So yeah, I believe what you're asking for is very achievable and very realistic using that national set of forms.
Can we do that within the period of time that's left to us?
Absolutely.
Do you have a estimate as to that date so that we could move this thing into an approval date? I'd rather see that before I give my stamp of approval. And so this is what I'm saying is that we're looking at 30 days from now or 45 days from now, and then we can set according to when we have a meeting set up, or if the council would like to have a special meeting to consider this, that's possible as well.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I believe that given the time frame we have to work with them, I should get that back to you within 30 days, because particularly if we have other partners and we want to have comment from the community, that would leave us some time.
And Rick, and I'll get to you in just a second, Councilor Gonzalez, would this jeopardize, I know we have somebody here from the ACD board or the Mainstreet board, do you think this would jeopardize your opportunity to go to the county and ask for the space that has currently been used there?
Mr. Mayor, I think anything we do to move forward is a good thing right now. I may not be totally prepared to answer that question, but I think the fact that the council's willing to consider this and is, I mean, clearly it's a very important program, and I, as far as I can tell from Mr. Archuleta, that the county is open to being cooperative in whichever best way they can. I understand budgets haven't been assigned, but if you're asking me if you think that this is an action that could hurt us, I don't think so. Thank you.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Mr. Mayor and Rick, if you could, during that process at the same point, maybe just get some kind of cost estimates. It's what it's cost for the communities, kind of like Artesia or Roswell, which mimic the same size. I know that mimic the same type of tourism draw, but just, I know they're really successful in what they've done. And so just a gauge for cost might help us too, so we know realistically what we're looking at.
Councilman, the state actually annually publishes the data of budgets, levels of service, and salary levels for all the ACD and Main Street communities. So it's readily available to you. I do believe it could be operated, given the positions you have approved for grant revenue development, community development director, planning and community development director, marketing and tourism. I think we could operate it pretty minimally. You know, it probably just need a budget for activities. The staffing part could be all done in-house with the organization that you've already approved in our current budget.
Councilor?
Yeah, I was curious, with the resignation of the former executive director of the ACD Main Street, what direction do we have on that? Who's responsible for finding a new executive director? Us? Maybe? Yeah? Okay,
Well, there still is a board, and to keep us in compliance, actually, there was a meeting today in Albuquerque that someone was required to attend, and they did. The board member attended. The mayor and I have discussed that if we're not obligated to a staff person, that there are a lot of activities, again, that's town activities, and that's something that we don't have somebody doing. And Judy Escobar seems to have done a pretty good job of that in the past. She's expressed a willingness to go back to handling that in a temporary capacity until we could decide what direction we want to take.
Thank you.
So, Rick, then you will be bringing back something within 30 days for us to look at and then vote on to move this forward, and hopefully in the meantime there's some generation within the county.
Yes, this was not an action item. I was just requesting direction as to how to proceed, and I think you provided that direction in good detail. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. With the time running like it is and the possibility of us attending a ribbon cutting, Jake, would we have to come back out of executive session to attend a ribbon cutting this time?
Well, Mr. Mayor, not necessarily. You know, I think as long as we let the public know what's going to happen, and
council. So, you might ask that we amend the agenda to go into our executive session with an information item that at 4 o'clock we will be attending a ribbon cutting on Town Hall Drive. Council?
So moved.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Call for vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sensing some confusion in the crowd about what's happening, so I'll just take the opportunity to say that the council's going into executive session on an item that's further down on the agenda. Assuming that executive session concludes in time to go to the ribbon cutting of the new improvements over on Town Hall Drive. Council's going to go to that ribbon cutting and then come back and resume the agenda where it started. Now, there's a chance that they don't get through executive session beforehand, in which case they'll come back and finish executive session before coming back into the public session to resume the agenda. So the bottom line is that the agenda is not going to be resumed until probably 4:20, 4:30 at the earliest. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Thank you.
You have a motion and a second. Call for vote.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Coming out of executive session, Mr. Caldwell, we have a report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the record should reflect that the town council went into executive session under item 13 pursuant to Open Meetings Act exemption 10-15-1H2, which allows for the discussion of limited personnel matters. The town council discussed only those matters set forth in the agenda. No action was taken and no decisions were made. As an additional clarification on the record, the town council did briefly exit executive session to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony over at the new town hall, Manzanares Drive improvements, and then returned to executive session to complete the executive session. And they returned around 4:20.
We have a motion to approve the town attorney's report.
Second.
And a second. Call for vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
Council, we have a forthcoming motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize you to negotiate a contract for another candidate with the limits that we placed on the last candidate.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Call for vote.
Councilmember Plaza?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunter?
Yes.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go on to then under town manager's report, the date of public hearing regarding the runway project. Mr. Phelps.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As has been discussed in earlier sessions, there was a desire by some members of council and the public for a public forum at which the public could present its concerns and ask questions of staff. I was looking for a date that would be acceptable to the council. I would hope that we could give at least 2 weeks' notice, and given that we can't hit the newspaper for this week, the earliest date would be the 21st, Thursday the 21st. We're in Albuquerque the following week. I would put it the week after that. However, I have received correspondence from a number of the people that felt that rather than waiting until after the bids are back, they would prefer to be heard prior to that. would be my recommendation that we not extend a formal invitation to the FAA or state aviation, and that it's been expressed to John Thompson in reaching out to him about this meeting, that they would not want to be cross-examined about the EIS statement or reports that they did not generate, for concern that should there be future litigation in this matter, that a record would be created at which they could be, in effect, asked to testify against themselves. I think I'm putting that about as well as I can express their concerns. So it would, we would have Mr. Thompson available to answer questions on any of the documents, our Public Works Director and myself, and any members of the council that would like to be present at that time. And that's what I'm looking at. And if any of the council members have additional items or like to see that amended, I'd like to hear from them at this time.
Councilor Peralta?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think, we've just spent 30 years on this project, and the EIS has been completed, and the public has had input on that. And I feel that at this time to have a public hearing or a public forum on this is not a good thing to do. And I feel that if we want to have a public meeting for providing with an exchange of information, that's fine, but I don't think that this should be a council meeting, nor should it be any kind of a public debate or anything like that. And that's for information as to what's going forward and what's happening. I'm all for being able to give that information to the public, but that's the extent that I think that we should do with it.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor?
I think I'd like to echo the same sentiments. When I saw it come up on the agenda as public hearing, it reiterated to me that it's going to be another meeting on a topic that we've well deliberated over the past. And I can say, just me, myself, as one counselor who has now sat for 2 years and 6 months, and not counting how long Councilor Peralta has been through it, but in just those short 2 years and 6 months, I probably listened to at least over 130 hours worth of public hearing on the airport. So I have no desire either, Mr. Mayor.
I would like to comment on that because
Please.
still being, just 4 months into this, this is a subject that is relatively new. I've been studying, listening, and looking into this, and after what happened with the renaming of the park, I think it's just crucial for myself and possibly Councilman Hahn and Dan, being the newest ones here, to hear from them. The format I'm unsure of, but I think we do need to hear from them ourselves.
Mr. Mayor, again, I'm not opposed to an informational setting, but to have it as a council item is, I think in itself disingenuous to the process that we've already entertained for the last 30 years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilman Peralta Gonzalez and Cantu. The whole idea behind this was to create an informational setting whereby proponents and opponents could simply share the facts to the community. And I plan on being there. I don't think it's their intent to have Councilman Gonzalez or Peralta an action item on this other than to have a forum. I don't believe they're asking for a special council meeting. They're only asking proponents and opponents to have their voice heard. And so I do not believe that the intent here is to have a town council meeting on this, but rather a public discourse. The issue will, once Armstrong comes back with its recommendation, come back to us for an appropriation. And there will be discussion and more public input at that time regarding that potential disbursement. as a counselor, Councilman Gonzalez had probably logged in 300, 400, 500 hours worth of work on this project since I took office, and I've got to tell you that I would really like to hear a dialogue on this. I need this as a counselor, so I want to reiterate what Councilwoman Cantu said. And, I also want to affirm that no one has to be there, that this is an informational gathering process. I'm still going through the voluminous documents and the 400 pages of public testimony, 800 pages of public testimony. So it's a huge effort. And I fully support and am grateful for the fact that this administration has wanted to give voice to the public. Lo, these 40 years, this administration continues to say the public has a right to speak, and they will. So I'm very proud of that.
No, and Councilor Hahn, for me, the 130 hours are in this chamber. That's not including what's been disseminated out there. I'm just talking about what I've sat behind this desk and read, just for clarity.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, the problem is that the agenda item says a public hearing. If you want to have a public information meeting, that's a totally different thing. No issue with it. However, the only issue I have is that there's going to be an exchange of information, but it's not going to change the project, as far as I'm concerned. Project is a project. You create it and cost it in one way, as approved by the FAA and through all the documentations through the EIS. And so, if we want to tell the public, however, but I think that the people who are against this thing still feel that they cancel it. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to get canceled. But that's my opinion, and only one voice.
Right, and you'll have a chance, I believe, Mr. Mayor, to express that opinion when we appropriate the 512 to move into step 2 of phase 1. Am I correct on that? John's not.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Bellis, is there any proposed dates that you have?
Yeah, I would say the 21st, because that would allow, or the 25th, maybe would be better, because the newspaper comes out on the 21st. We can put it in the paper, we can be hopefully an accompanying article, and that'll give people time till Monday, the 25th.
So, Jake, can we run this as a informational hearing, or
Mr.
on
Mayor,
an informational agenda, or?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I think that you have a great deal of discretion today to schedule a meeting in the future. I don't think that you needed to have clearly posted on the agenda whether you were going to hold an informational meeting at some later date. Whether you call it an informational meeting or a hearing is up to you. I tend to agree that unless you're going to frame this as some sort of quasi-judicial proceeding where you're going to take evidence and make some ultimate decision, then there's no sense in calling it a public hearing. And it should be instead maybe an informational forum.
I agree.
Yes.
We don't want to mislead the public into thinking that there will be action taken that night.
Okay.
I do, and JR, I notice is sitting in the back. Perhaps, JR, you could somehow work this into your next awesome article.
That's what I came and sat in on all the meeting today. I absolutely will.
So I would, Mr. Bellis, pending the mayor's approval, would like to give proponents and opponents as much time as possible, and so the evening of the 25th, since of August.
This is the day we also have a special meeting here as well.
Special meetings at 1 on the 25th, and then this would be in the evening.
This would be at 6 o'clock.
At 6. Does that work for you, Councilwoman?
The evening,
being here. At 6, Mr. Bellis will say, and we'll have to find it in there. I would like to structure this so that we are encouraging dialogue and listening skills. I'm absolutely opposed to people debating and yelling or otherwise carrying on. I would just like a low-key, if that's possible, dissemination of the facts.
And they can set the ground rules for that, Councilor, when we first started, and they don't abide by the ground rules, we can, call the meeting.
And I think it's important too, I've noticed at some of our other public meetings, particularly at the old courthouse, when people have a microphone, not only do they have the floor, but people have a tendency to listen and not interrupt. And, we could exact that kind of guidelines.
It could possibly be held in Bells?
Whatever your preference.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, are you asking for a quorum meeting?
Yeah, I think we're just asking to set a meeting for public information, and if whoever can attend, can attend. You know that the 25th, I think is, a lot of people have to be in Albuquerque on the 26th, so the evening of the 25th would work.
Well, I'll be here, and it sounds like Councilwoman Cantu, and it sounds like Councilman Gonzalez will not be here at this point, and Councilman Barrones and you will be otherwise engaged.
I'll be here.
Oh, you'll be here? Oh, so we will need to announce a quorum.
Oh, we won't need a quorum.
Well, I mean, we'll need to announce that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll send out a notice that a possible quorum will exist for review.
Okay. So the 25th.
Thank you.
So, under Town Manager's Report, item C, status report on request for proposals. Mr. Bellis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I had forwarded to you earlier a copy of the local community service block grant format and also a copy of an RFP for the cell tower. The third item on there, the local economic development block grant, is not done yet because I wanted to get input on the format we used for the CSBG grant. And if that was acceptable, to me the intent was not just to write an RFP, but to create a structure and forms that could be used for federal and state money that we might receive and to send out other RFPs. It could be adapted also for the economic development block grant. So I guess it was just 64 pages, but if you have any input, I'd like to receive it. Also, as I indicated in the email, if you could give me input as to, particularly for that item, neighborhoods that you might be aware of that have particular needs or populations that might have been overlooked.
On this item, I read through it, and I'd recommend that you put it out on the street. I think it's a good, and put it out. I think it's a good proposal, good RFP, and I think it has a lot of positives for the town, and particularly for us, our community, to be able to communicate with each other.
And it's not a motion, I'll certainly second that, and I'll...
Motion.
Huh?
Yeah, he made a motion.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'll definitely second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not, I think this is job well done, Rick.
Yeah, Mr. Bellis, thank you, that's a huge effort, and...
Jake.
And Jake.
Also.
and
Job
Jake.
well done.
Job well done.
Thanks.
If I could clarify with council, that's both for the cell tower RFP and CSBG.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, no further discussion, call for the vote.
Councilmember Hunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Cutchin?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to item D, policies for receiving septic waste, discussion and information. Mr. Bellis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is merely to keep an informational item to keep the council informed. Meeting was held with the town attorney, the mayor present, and representatives of the septic haulers, and Mr. Rael. And discussion again in regards to hours and conditions under which the sewer plant could accept outside septic. And a recommendation came out of that, from those that were present, that we asked CH2M Hill, who provides our services in the operation of that plant, to analyze our current security systems, both from outside threat, break-in, as well as potential products that could be entered into the system, to examine similar communities and facilities and see if there's anything in the way of best practices we could or should have to do to improve those, and come back to us with, if it requires, it's being over and above the contract we're providing now, an additional fee or amendment to our contract that would allow them to put that report together, that we'd be allowed to engage that, come back to you with it. The goal of that is then once that report comes back for council to determine what expenditures and what items we might want to lend to security, as well as those that would provide convenience to the community. And once that list is selected, to forward that and the report from CH2M Hill to the EPA and NMED for their input as to whether those measures are satisfactory and necessary. The ultimate goal would be that we would have a facility that is secure enough, that we're able to identify by cameras, by pass cards onto the security gate, and in dumping, we'd be able to identify who put what in when they were there, how much they put in, and what the correct billings were, to the point of being absolutely certain at all times, and that we could then establish hours and rates that would be convenient and practical to the community while still safeguarding the system.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bellis, just quickly, what is is there a timetable on this, reporting back to us as far as if there's any massaging to the policies in particular?
If I have your concurrence to proceed and ask CH2M Hill to do that, I would defer to them as of tomorrow if I gave them the okay as to how long they anticipate it might take to put such a report together.
Let me go back the other way. Are you recommending that we do this, what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. The timetable from CH.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Peralta, I would think that I already sent out an email to our project managers throughout our company, and I'm also trying to see if I get a hold of Albuquerque and Santa Fe to also see exactly how their systems work, along with any of the larger municipalities that are our size. I'm thinking that would take roughly about 30 to 60 days to gather all that information for analysis. So that's what I'm shooting for.
So we could target the last meeting of September?
I would think so, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move forward with that, Rick, and then bring it back then.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have for my report.
Okay, so then we'll go to matters from the mayor and council. Downtown parking lot, reconsideration of the parking fee for the farmers market and holiday season. Councilor Hahn, I think this was an item that you wanted to see back on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman, councilors. I have.
I didn't get to speak. I was left out. I'm here to be able to speak a few words.
Council, and there was going to be no action item. It's going to be an item that's going to be on the
Yeah,
on
I just wanted to I've been through this discussion and I know exactly where it's headed, and I just wanted to put a little bit of input to the mayor and the council that's here and let them know what's going on right now at this point.
I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Okay. I didn't even know that the meeting was going to be this early, but thank you for letting me to speak with all of you. We did have a resolution already that, actually there's a sign over there where the septic hauler's down. And this has been there for years, and it gives you the time and hour that CMH Hill is the one that put this together. It's exactly what the resolution has today. But what I've been hearing is that the pumpers want to put an automatic service to be able to put their cars in, going in and out at whatever specific time they want to be able to dump to meet their, if they work late, then they want to go and be able to have a car to be able to enter to the property and be able to access to government property. The issue that I have here is that this is government property. And government property, I don't see how anybody can have a card or a key entering to government property. It worries me, and I guess what really worries me more is the machine that's there that monitors only pH, and it's a real low quality, doesn't monitor any type of oils or grease or stuff there. I asked them when was the last time that bell rang, that there was an alarm. It said it rang about one time, that they could tell me one time that it rang. Of all the pumping that's going, I just want to read this and I'm just going to cut out of here. It says, projects such that the project is staffed at least Monday through Friday. Okay, let me read the top. Operated, maintained, and monitored the project such that the project is staffed at least Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 and 5. That's the staff from 8 to 5. It's the people that are running it. And it says, CMH Hill shall be responsible to alarms and emergency calls 24 hours per day, 7 days per week within 1 hour of occurrence. CHM Hill OMI shall designate as a minimum of 1 staff member as standby to responsible calls. What it's trying to say is that the working hours at the wastewater treatment plant are from 8 to 5. And what they're trying to put an setting where they just go in there and get service with not even nobody to take care of the site. And it worries me because the machine there that monitors is a low quality monitoring machine. And I really believe that we ought to be there taking care of it more than anything. What's going on right now is not really to help the environment. It's actually a political thing that's going on right behind the scene. And what I want to see is the best for the wastewater treatment plant to protecting our waters and us keeping track of it is what I wish to see than getting an automatic service and nobody being able to take care of it. I think it's, instead of making the quality of water better, it's making the quality worse because we're not taking care of the situation properly. And I was speaking to Jacob here, and I asked him that he should get an environmental consultant. I was telling him there's too many people that are there making decisions without environmental experience, and I would really suggest...
A lot of this stuff we can read up in the meeting when this comes up available, and I'm sure those will all be addressed within that segment there. So.
Okay, that's all I'm asking, is get somebody that has experience to oversee the project and can make the right decisions.
Appreciate it. Okay, so, go back to downtown
Right,
parking.
right. And so, when we opened, I have two primary concerns. When we opened the farmer's market, we announced to the community that there would be free parking. I'm terribly concerned that if we switch policies in August, we are sending a message of inconsistency, which, in my experience, is never a good business message to send. The second concern that I have regarding parking on the holiday season, last week we had determined to go with Plan B or A, Option A, which basically offered free parking to the downtown businesses for a week or two in November and then a week or two in December. And I have the same concern here, one of consistency. We're talking about a couple of extra weeks here if we just open it up for free parking from November, from Thanksgiving through the new year. And that's it for me. I did, and I'm sure you all received from Jay, a citizen business owner, Moby Dickens, who's been leading the parking charge. And he has 4 suggestions here, which is on your email currently. And essentially what Mr. Moore is stating is that there will be, in item number 1, meter change of businesses. He recommends that we retain free parking for the market through the end of the harvest. And again, our agreement with the community has always been that we would reevaluate this whole process after harvest, late fall, early winter. He, like I am, is also advocating for holiday free parking. And then he's asking for professional help regarding the long-term parking solution, which, if we can get some of our Mainstreet and ACD programs running, could enable us to obtain that kind of professional advice. That being said, I would like to make a motion to rescind our resolution last week that afforded us option A. Should I review option A? Or
Yes, if you would.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Mayor. As I recall, and please correct me, Renee, if I'm wrong on this, option A called to discontinue free parking within a grace period, 2 weeks or so, for the farmers market, and institute free parking over November, Thanksgiving, not the whole month of November, but a week or two in November for Thanksgiving and a week or two in the Christmas and New Year's holiday. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry, Renee. I'm going from memory here, so.
I'm sorry.
Anyone just jump
I
in.
don't remember, and it was a handout that was.
Option A was a week of parking during Thanksgiving, the week of
Something.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and then again from Christmas till New Year's.
Right.
That was option A.
Yes, thank you. So, that is my motion to rescind that action item that we took last week.
So I have a motion on the floor. You have a second? Hearing no second, motion dies for a lack of a second. Is there any other item? No?
I'm just more adamant in meeting the vendors from the farmers market to park at the town hall and the TCA to free up the parking spaces for Any visitors, tourists?
Mayor, Councilwoman, I did meet with the two managers of the farmers market as well as a number of them throughout last Saturday, and I made it very clear to them that the chief and I would be there at 7 o'clock to note what vehicles on the plaza belong to vendors, that if at 8 o'clock they were still on the plaza, regardless of what was in the meter, they would be ticketed. And we would continue to ticket them every hour. So I believe that's a strong statement to move them off the plaza. The managers in the market have cooperated with that, and as I say, we will be there to enforce it. I would ask, and I don't see the chief is here,
Chief is in the back.
that we be allowed a little bit of latitude in that. I think some people that come in enforcing it, we're not going to put the signs up, but some of the people I have the feeling are going to come there and just presume it's free parking. So for the beginning of this, other than on the plaza, the Dunn Street lot, the Guadalupe lot, we would like to give out sort of a warning notice for the first week or two till people kind of get the hang of it. Otherwise, I think we're just going to have a lot of angry people.
Well, since there's no free parking really, and we're still paying for the leases, I think we need to collect the revenue.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm okay with that, as long as we can still just echo to the farmers market, but they either put some type of signage up within their booth space as well too, but then a week or two to let it go, kind of slide, give some warnings out, but I think by week 2, people should have it.
That's a good idea, Councilman. Thank you.
I was hoping, Chief Weaver, I was wondering if you could just, for the people watching at home, just refresh everybody's memories on the buses and right now where you've asked them to drop off.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The buses now, we're requesting tour buses go inside the John Dunn parking area and then immediately to the south of John Dunn where the public restrooms are, into that parking lot right there.
Okay. I was wondering if it might be possible, because my experience with the kiosk is people don't like to go far from their car, period.
Right.
And people in buses are the same way, and I know when I was in Washington, I didn't want to be far from the bus when I was touring. But in order to get everybody to go from north to south, instead of just hitting the north and going to the bus, if it might be possible to have the buses drop off at Tuesday morning and then pick up at Loretto parking lot.
You know, ma'am, I thought about that. The only concern I had was from Tuesday morning up to the plaza, people are actually going to have to walk the stairs to get up there. We actually have to go uphill. And I was kind of concerned about older people or people who were taking the buses that were somehow physically impaired. So they either have to go up or they have to go around. And so from the area that I figured out to park, I'm actually centrally located to the north and south, actually quasi in the center of the historic district. So that's kind of what I was hoping for.
Has it just been something you've noticed that there's a lot of physically handicapped people who can't make that walk?
No, I haven't. I'm just kind of making the assumption that part of the assumption that I make is that I need to have the access point, no matter what we're doing, that encompasses the biggest degree of the population. And so when we're talking about the population, I talk about the handicapped segment as well. And so if there is even one person on the tour bus that, for instance, has COPD, has to be on an oxygen tank, we've limited that person's access to the plaza. If we park next to the parking lot, that's all one level, so there's no having to hike up and down an incline. And then also, I mean, never say never. I'm really happy to readdress that as well.
Well, my big concern is, it's like, I want a win-win situation for everybody. And I'm on the south side, my family's property, and you know, it's like, I walk that all the time, that handicap ramp there at Tuesday morning. I just want it to be fair for everybody, and the merchants have, you know, we voted to keep the farmers market there, so to have as little impact on the merchants, it would really be nice to start at Tuesday morning and go north and still pick up
at will parking lot. If that's at all possible, and I don't know, is that something I would need to make a motion on?
Well, I don't, Councilwoman Cantu, I think for me, because that's where I park when I go to the farmer's market or any doings at the plaza, the problem that I see is, number one, we don't own that alleyway that connects the plaza to Tuesday mornings, and number two, it's pretty unimproved, so if something were to happen within that, walk from Tuesday mornings, we do all that. Well, either way, the unimprovement of it, is concerning to me, just in that if something happens to somebody there, it puts the town at the liability of, either way we're liable, but I think we just pose a greater risk within that area as opposed to Mainstreet or John Dunn.
I have the same concern in the sense that you're climbing the stairs or you're going around. It's difficult for people who have any sort of physical disability. It could be minor or major. And that walk going around through the parking lot and up through into the plaza on the west side, that's a pretty good hike up that incline there. Plus the fact you have to go downhill to get to that sidewalk and back up again. And the other one going up the stairs, but the concerns I have is that we don't own the parking lot. That's Tuesday morning, and they would have to give us permission to use it, and they may not want the liability if something was to happen on the parking lot. Person getting off the bus and trip and fall over. So that would have to be approved too. The concern that she has with parking on the Dunn Street is the same thing that I've thought about too, is that will people take the time to walk down to the plaza or not, or will they just go straight to the shops on Mainstreet and Dunn House? I don't know. That's always been a concern of mine, and that was one of the reasons I felt on the farmer's market, since we're not having any traffic or parking on that west side, would be an ideal place to drop off. It doesn't cure the situation during the week, which is where the majority of buses are. But I think what you're looking at is not allowing them on the plaza period, correct? Anytime.
Well, what will happen is the kind of criteria that I looked at was I wanted to make sure the tour buses had a spot they could go to 365 days a year that was not affected by anything that might be happening inside the town. That when that it was a protected space for the tour bus, so they wouldn't have to back up. When the customers came off of the bus, they had an immediate resource, which was the big public restrooms. That they didn't have to cross traffic, they wouldn't have to do with crosswalks. That if I have noticed some behavior of people coming off tour buses, and some of them almost look kind of in a daze, and so I want them to be able to acclimate in the environment without having to be endangered by traffic. And then centrally located. Now, I also have a responsibility to look at this economically to what degree that I can, knowing that if we move the tour buses from the plaza, and it absolutely has an impact on the plaza merchants, if we move to the location where proposed, it also has an impact upon the John Dunn shops. John Dunn stops would theoretically get a boost, and the plaza theoretically would get a decline. Furthermore, from looking at tour buses and watching how they behaved throughout the last summer, I've noticed that there are tour buses that end up parking inside the plaza. There are also tour buses that end up parking in Guadalupe Plaza, and we've also had tour buses that have stopped in the John Dunn area. And so, to that end, I attempted to make contact with tour buses, and I find that they don't communicate with each other. In fact, we got a list from the visitor center with one tour bus that was out of Pennsylvania that came last summer. So we contacted them and said, "Are you planning to come back to Taos?" And the person said, "Well, we've never gone to Taos. You were here last year," and they remembered that. So the other aspect of this is, if we put up the correct signage, we have all tour buses going to one single area. And then my hope was to be able to draw them into the plaza, or likewise draw them into John Dunn. There would need to be some marketing aspect of either having someone meet the bus or some sort of signs telling them where the plaza is, because when they get out next to the bathrooms, they won't be able to tell where the plaza is. They can readily see John Dunn, but they're looking at the county courthouse. So we would have to figure out some sort of movement behavior.
I was just thinking of something now, and my memory is correct that the majority of the tour buses that came to the Nelson Army Museum requested a docent to give them tours to the museum. I'm wondering if we could solicit Arsenio Cordova and his Historical 2 group to meet the tour buses and take those people on a tour of the plaza in that area. In other words, take a walking tour. That helps the merchants. It also helps them get around and find what things are at. A possible solution.
It's a possible solution.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, I think that what happens next week with the courthouse makes a big difference, because one of the things about the area that Chief's identified is that it does create the possibility of doing a shelter there, of doing a map board, of actually putting something like the kiosk there, that there's physically someone there to give out information and direct people. And certainly if there was consideration by the county to opening one of those alleys, probably the one on the east side, there'd be a straight visual line from where the people got off the bus into the plaza. And when you do look at the old photos of the courthouse, that wasn't the back of an empty building. At one point people used to park back there, and it was the second entrance to the plaza. So I think there's a lot of potential for that area, and I think we'll have an answer very shortly, as soon as next Tuesday, on how the county wants to treat that area. And I would hope that we have the opportunity to convey the potential for how that courthouse can fit into all these bigger plans to receive the view.
Let's say the county says no to anything that may be suggested for the courthouse. And are we looking at keeping that as a bus drop-off anyway, regardless? That's really the concern we have, is that if it's going to be that, then what can we do to try to make it as accessible or acceptable or better than just dropping?
Well, I think like in a lot of areas that are designed by the National Park System where you dropped off, and they deliberately control where you can be dropped off, there's a sign in front of you with the map, and it has an arrow going this way and this way, depending on where you're going to. So I think there's a lot of waypoints, maps, and other things we can do to direct people from there with minimal cost.
Well, we just want to try to do the best we can to neutralize the possible problem.
I would personally be willing to go talk to Tom and Barbara McCarthy, and before we absolutely say no, it's not possible to drop off in Tuesday morning's parking lot, to hear from their mouth, yay or nay.
I suggest, go talk to him and bring that back as, as a suggestion.
Okay.
But for now, we have, a place for them to drop off and pick up that's constant, so they know exactly where the bus is. But the possibility of a change could happen.
Absolutely. Now, the other obstacle that I found is trying to get the word out to the tour bus companies. Last Thursday, we spoke to, I can't remember which tour bus it was, but I spoke to actually their scheduling, and people coming up from Santa Fe, and on the tour they were going to Taos Pueblo, and they're at 2:45, they would be here until 3:45. I had Officer Sanchez, actually I sent them a copy of the map, gave them directions, told Officer Sanchez he was prepared for that, and the bus never showed up. And at about 3:20, he gave me a call and said he saw the bus traveling south going past the plaza. So once again, through the charter services, they have the capability of changing their itinerary as it goes. So in order for that to be a real good spot for tour buses to go, I really think we need to have signage, no matter where we put the buses.
Yes.
We need to get signs out so they know exactly where to go.
Okay. So, Mr. Taos, we can figure out some pricing and read after us, what
Absolutely.
are the costs for signage and?
Yep.
All right, anything else on this item, Councilor? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief. So, Mayor's update, discussion of possible dates for a joint town-county meeting. Council, we're just looking for some possible dates that we can offer to, or if we want to leave it to staff and then see what we can come up with, bring some dates back, or do we already have some dates, Mr. Bellis, that have been kind of tentatively put out there?
Not at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Peralta?
Mr. Mayor, the only question I have is, what would be on the agenda to discuss with the county, and when that's established, if we could get some input or backup information before we go to the meeting?
Yes, and we will make sure that that's all done, and we will get a list from them. One thing that we would like to see on there is, again, the old county courthouse, and we see if we can work together with them. It might, on that particular item. Mr. Bellis, and is there a couple other issues that?
I believe, Mr. Mayor, the other item of major concern to the county was to discuss the hospital situation.
Yes.
It might be a good time also to get an update for both governing bodies in regards to the 911 system, in that it appears that there will be some delays, particularly to the CAD system and the unified software, data management. And we're looking at that with the chief to see if there's some adjustments we can make.
And then there's one other item when we discussed 911 is, we've been approached, or I've been approached by Espanola, the County of Espanola, and the possibility of their need to actually have dispatch also, and actually them being part of it, and I did bring it up to the county already. But it would help all of our bottom lines if there was more of a regional effort. But that's something that, will be a discussion item.
Mr. Mayor, I think, the one thing we need to be cautious and really look into that with regards to that JPA is what we've opted to do for the village of Ski Valley and Cuesta, because I think to bring the third party in will affect that rate incredibly. Well, I want to make it viable, I don't also want it killed,
Right.
just for the sake of, well, you're giving them almost a free ride, and we're going to pay what?
And it's something that might not even be able to happen till it's been in operation for a period of time, Counselor, so that we have a really good idea what it costs to operate it, and we get all the bugs worked out of it.
But I agree, I think I'd rather have it here, because as the governor's touted many times, she believes in regionalization, and I don't think, unless we have that collaboration with northern New Mexico, we would be that regionalized provider.
Mr. Mayor, along those lines, though, I think that I would like to have a presentation from Mayor Reba before we have a meeting with the county, so that we are totally up to date on what they're asking for, and we can have an intelligent conversation with the county.
And I guess, again, since they've asked, I suggested that they come to the county, because the county would be the fiscal agent for it, and make the presentation to them, and then it would then kind of be brought to us afterwards. So, Councilor Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Premature for Straight Hearts collaboration with the county, Mr. D.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, it's certainly something we can put on the agenda. We both have month-to-month contracts. We both had committed to the passage of the Uniform Animal Control Ordinance, which is sort of just not moved forward. So staff can have discussion about that, about whether the timing is appropriate to bring that forward.
I know at the hospital meeting last week, Tom had asked me a little bit about Straight Hearts, so and I'm sure there are other commissioners who'd like to just maybe converse about it, if you concur.
And that would be a good item for that joint meeting.
If possible. And then I had a different matter that more involved with joint meeting, but
Okay, go ahead.
other joint meeting.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. An update on Red Willow. Where we stand on that, where we left it was
Where we left it was
to discuss and talk about Judge McElroy's idea of a tribunal, putting together a citizens committee, as I can recall, to come up with a name, and then my desire to have some dialogue about that and use it as a process for our community. And so, do we have any movement on Red Willow?
And Mr. Pellis, and you know, one of the things that we heard out of it is we're not rushing forward with it, taking
Right.
time, and except for Councilman Peralta. So
me, leave it alone.
I guess we should make a decision quickly and get it out of our hair.
So,
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, we've had a number of inquiries from the press, and I think the article that was in Taos News fairly reflects what the reaction was, which was that we seem divided on the council as to the approach, and given that there were some other urgencies, staff attorney getting these grants out, getting the 5 new management positions, that I won't say it was not a priority, but it was not a top priority at this time. And airport hearings. So it is still on the agenda to be moved forward at some point. Hopefully as soon as the rest of these things kind of settle in, but I'm always open to direction from the council.
Thanks, Mr. Bellis. No pressure. I hadn't heard anything in a while, and I've gotten used to hearing a lot every day. So I'm
It's a nice change, isn't it?
I must be going through withdrawal, but no rush. It is a process, and grateful for your attention. But please don't stress over it.
thank you. Anything else on this item? Okay. Now we'll go on to other reports, and Council, I just want to report that just for informational items, that I did sign off on a floor plan for the Mosaic restaurant located on the Plaza. That's the restaurant that's in the motel there in La Fonda, and they were trying to expand where they could serve liquor into their patio. So I did sign off on that. That wasn't something that required approval of the council, but I thought it was that I should at least inform the council that I did sign off on that. Just let everyone know. I think that's all I have on that. Go out and council reports. Anything from council? I think you've made your, we did have, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I just have a real brief one. I attended Naleo's Policy Institute on the Affordable Care Act and the new implementations that have rolled out with regards to the Affordable Care Act. And the urgency was stressed as municipal leaders how important it is that we make sure that our localized population is at least aware of what needs to be done to be signed on. Because they're finding in many small communities across the country that many people are qualifying for Medicaid, Medicare without any cost to them at all. And I think there's a real just stigma that there is cost associated with the Affordable Care Act, and in many cases aren't, especially within Taos County where a good portion of our population is below the poverty level. There stands to be a good chance that we could get quite a few people insured, and the reason I look at this and I look at it so hugely is that it's a twofold equation for me. Is number one, if the more people we can get on some type of health care plan, the less indigent we'll have to provide moving forward in the future. But number two, with the introduction of broadband within this community, having the ability to hold almost a 24/7 virtual emergency room, for example, you keep those individuals out of the recurring cost of the hospital. So I think there's some real good opportunities out there, but I think we as community leaders either need to get more versed in what ACA means to our community, and that can be done through various number of avenues, which is the health department or organizations like AARP.
And Councilor, that's a good thing that you bring this up because, a lot of the big discussion within the hospital and the condition of the hospital at the present is the, uncompensated care that has been kind of going on since 2008, 2009, when the economy kind of took a dive, and there's been more and more uncompensated care within the community because a lot of people can't afford it, and I think that's what's driving the hospital in making some of the decisions, and maybe not, but if we can continue to get people that will qualify for this kind of, insurance or so that the hospital can get compensated for what care they are getting. So if you can bring any of that back, that would be great.
Some more information. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just real quickly. The uncompensated care for the hospital has not been growing. The problem is the payer mix. We're getting, the scale is tipped. The private pay or private insurance pay number has gone down substantially, and the Medicare and Medicaid has gone up substantially. It's the mix, and so what happens is that because we're only able to get so much compensation from Medicare and Medicaid, and it's extremely much lower than private insurance, is the problem is then you're not making the kind of money you need to operate that you used to get. Now, that being said, the numbers that we are getting right now for this year that we're going to be getting out of the new compensation for underpayment for Medicare and also for indigent care is about $5.1 million. So we're going to have a little bit of a surplus there to help out with some of the capital needs we have and still hold a good bottom line. So that's the good side. The problem is that we're still seeing a strong trend on the payer mix going in a direction that's not healthy for us. So until Obamacare kicks in full force and we start getting more people on insurance plans, we're not going to change that trend. So with the state of New Mexico opting in for more Medicaid programs, and because that scale of income is there, and the fact that the population in Taos County is aging, we're creating that imbalance in the amount of money that we have to pay for health care. So there's a few things that need to happen, and but the trend right now seems to be flattening out, but it's not at a level that is healthy. So one of the things that we have to do is increase the number of patients that we get coming into the hospital. The majority of patients right now are outpatient surgeries. So inpatient is way down. And there's not that many transfers to say we don't have beds. We do have beds. But the trend for the last 15 years has been going to outpatient. It's healthier for us because the more chances you of staying in the hospital, the more chances you have of picking up infections that carry around and people bring in or something happening. So you're better off at home than actually in the hospital bed. It doesn't even swear to it. So as that trend changes, then we have to look at a balance in how the payer mixes, and that's what we're hoping for in the next couple of years, that balance will be equal, and then we'll see a good solid base for the hospital and for the medical community.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, just one item that was brought up at that institute was UCLA has taken a proactive approach to increasing their number of insured patients, and that was upon check-in and arrival. when somebody is basically admitted to the hospital that doesn't have healthcare insurance, if they're capacitated enough to make those decisions on their own, and even if they're not, if they have family members that are there, they have trained their administering agents in being able to sign people up for the ACA. And so basically, before the time that they leave, they have health insurance. And it's just one more way that they're able to offset the ever-rising costs that comes through indigent, because their indigent care has been cut significantly as well. But I thought it was a pretty neat idea in the sense that, well, yeah, if they're already paying you to visit, why not, get them signed up instead of kicking them out and saying, well, now we have this bill. So I don't know what it would take for the hospital to institute something like that or get their people trained into the legalities of the ACA, but I think it would be at least somewhat of a win-win.
Mr. Mayor, I need to get you on the road, but very quickly, part of the problem is the laws in California compared to laws in New Mexico. So you would have to look at those and see what they're required to do that we're doing. But the other issue here is that the amount of money that is paid by Medicare and Medicaid for patient care differs from state to state. And that's all political. For example, Texas pays about, and I'm trying to remember this, it's been years since I looked at it, but they pay about 1.7 times in Medicare for their doctors as compared with state in Mexico. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for them, but it is a better reimbursement than what we can get. So, depends on politics in some cases as to what you can get out of the Healthcare Act or healthcare on public health. So there's a lot of things that you have to play the game to try to make it up. Now, one of the things that has been indicated too is on private insurance, some of the new policies are coming on right now, and that should change in January, is you can buy the insurance with a very high deductible. So the insurance pays a very minimal amount. The high deductible is not paid by those patients, and that's really where the uninsured care portion comes from. It's not from people who don't have insurance, it's from people who won't pay the deductible or can't afford to pay.
Right, thank you, Councilman Peralta. And Councilman Gonzalez, Holy Cross does that. When you go in, if you're not insured, they're on it right away. Trend lines are very scary. The 5.1 is going to be a break even. You're absolutely right on the money, Councilman Peralta, regarding that, the high deductibles with the HCRA, the Healthcare Reform Act. I'm wondering what and Mayor Barrone, if you have to go, you should go. But, I was at the task force meeting last week, and I'm wondering if one of the questions that came up during that meeting was how the board is going to receive information from the task force and what kind of standing the task force will have with the Holy Cross Board. Now, I realize it's not a council matter. I just asked you to switch hats as a board member, but I'll put that plug in for the task force. They're looking for some standing and an approach with the Holy Cross Board. And we can talk about it offline if you like.
And I can't speak for the board.
Right, but for yourself.
But I would say, looking at it from the fact that the Taos Health System is a private corporation, at best you could be looking at maybe advisory.
Yes, and I think...
In other words, giving advice.
Right, and I think essentially that's what they're... Anyway, this is a conversation maybe we should have.
But one other thing too that was brought up at that meeting was the Open Meetings Act.
Yes.
The board meetings actually comply totally with the Open Meetings Act.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that isn't in there that could be is committee meetings. Committee meetings they're not scheduled, or they should be scheduled. They're not advertised as being happening. But they could be more open about that and have the public in them if they wanted to. But all the board meetings comply totally with the Open Meetings Act.
Right. We went through that last week. Anyway, the Health, safety, and welfare, the mayor needs to get to a rosary, so that's a whole
I
lot
move we
more.
adjourn.
Second.
The motion, the second, all in favor?
Good night.
Thank you.